a lot of people don't know this, but the goat is actually a real goat. We did that filming of that goat by itself, and we took it up to Warragul, and it got out of the car today, and we sent Damien to go get it. No goat show.
Disappointed because we couldn't do Saturday show, so
He's pissed off, so we're just going to try and get him back.
What are you doing?
Come on, you're a star. They love you.
They called a herd of goats. What are they? What's the collection of goats?
They love you, buddy.
A Richard and David of goats. Hey, goat. No, there's a ram.
Told you should have gone with
What are you doing?
Told you should have gone with a cow.
Samantha, what's wrong? Come on. Sam, come on, come back. All is forgiven. It's going to be all right. No good.
No good.
Nah. Not interested. Sam's not interested. It's never been the same. She amended that legislation.
That's a bit funny. Okay, tonight's guests are our favourite, or our second favourite after the golden head, David, who can't make it. Richard D. Wallens. Why is your D missing from your name, by the way? I like that D. It's very
well,
distinct.
the D, the D's there because that was a secondary Facebook account because they deleted my main one completely. It's been sent up the chimney, mate.
And talking of distinguished gentlemen, we have David. David is filling in for Blonde David, and he's here tonight to talk about vaccination passports. But he's really here because he's single and he's trying to find love.
We substituted a David for a David.
It's like a dating site tonight, isn't it?
Better than me all the time.
Yeah, David. Why should the women
number one, please?
pick number one?
Pick box number one.
Okay, the first one to come on. Evening, lads. As you guys get talk about vaccine passports, but why are you getting vaccine passports? Ladies, if you'd like a date with David, he's in Melbourne. First one to do in the comments. I'd like a date with David. Gets the date. Go.
That's it. First comment.
Now talk about COVID. We're all going to die.
Talk about COVID. Are we sick of it? It's been 2 years of this bullshit, mate. 2 years we've been living in. And you notice the way in the age today?
One at a time.
I'm really sick of it. I'm getting over it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Bloody horrible.
And like in the age today, in the age today, they were saying, with Omicron, the age has been running a series of articles, and we need tougher rules back, because they've always got to do that in media before Daniel Andrews brings it in. Oh, we need tougher rules have got to come back, and it's just like 2 weeks to flatten the curve is back, It's like, fuck.
Why not just let's stop pretending that the virus has got anything to do with it and just say, just get to the point. You want tougher rules. You want tougher laws. You want totalitarianism. Just cut to the chase. You
want it. And to prove that they want it, can you remember when auto tellers came in? Remember auto tellers when they first came in? Now, we used to line up a meter behind everybody else. Who told us to do that? No one. They never drew a line. They never did anything. We just did it ourselves. We want it.
Thank you, Lorraine.
We wanted totalitarianism for ages. We want it.
Well, obviously, people have actually secretly wanted totalitarianism because they seem to have kind of wandered into it. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen a people accept totalitarianism so almost happily as the people of Australia. I mean, maybe in other countries around the world, but it's extraordinary the way people have got into it, and people are still right now before Christmas doing the whole QR codes. And remember, if someone goes to that shop who had COVID, they're going to ring you up and say, "Oh, you got to isolate for 2 weeks," and they're going to check on you and everything, or else it's a 5,000. So basically, people are risking ruining Christmas over this rubbish.
Well, they had someone come into the store today, and they told me that someone came in and said, "Here's my passport," and they said, "We don't need to see it," and they wanted them to see it.
Exactly. Anyway,
the store and it didn't get.
David, were you going to say something? David,
I was going to say something. I was going to ask a question, put it out there, but.
Speak to the microphone.
I'll get closer. Now, my face is a little fatter. Okay, close.
Really, I'd rather hit you with a fat head than look at you in the distance. You're looking great. We can't hear what you're saying. You sound like a fish gurgling. when you go back. That's good, David.
Okay, so maybe I need to put my hands free. Let's see if it sounds better. Look, I live next door. I live next door to a mid 50-year-old Euro trash woman who's aspired her whole life. Her greatest aspirations were to be white trash, and now she's succeeded. She's
from Euro to white.
She's transformed into white trash, almost complete. Now, to cut a long story short, her and her bogan partner will sit in their backyard, in their courtyard, and they enjoy a cigarette and a Jim Beam, I'm guessing, from the smell, the fumes permeating. And verbatim, they quote the news. It is like bogans reading the news, verbatim, with coding, with that, everything. They just repeat. They repeat everything they hear. Their conversations are like a Bad Neighbours script. It's like a government. No, it's like.
Hang on a minute. We've got a representative.
Is there a good neighbour script?
All right, settle down.
Sorry,
Pay the bills.
Sorry. I'm so sorry, sir. No, really, truly.
The one when they took me out with a bow and arrow wasn't fantastic, but anyway, keep going, David.
Big foot in mouth. But you're not responsible for the script, so,
I think
sir.
we know that.
Good.
There's no secret, David.
Know that about the bow and arrow.
Verbatim. It's like a government. It's like a government info ad. Like they just. Well, yeah. Well, make sure your QR code when you get in there. Certainly will, love. I mean, it's just.
Yeah,
bang.
It's bullshit.
Richard, did you want to say something?
Yes. Well, they call it TV. They call it TV programming for a reason. You know what I mean? And it's definitely. And I think here at Cafe Lockout, we're in charge of deprogramming, and obviously that's something you do too. When you've left a cult. I mean, people are basically in a cult, and the cult of COVID. Except it's not like Scientology or some other, like even more ridiculous cult or whatever that's going around. But it's like everybody is caught up in this thing, and there are so many people, and you see people, the kind of scales fall from the eyes. My mother, when this came about, she was all into it and everything. But now, we had a bit of a family Christmas thing today, and she was like, "Oh, I'm not doing the fucking QR code." I mean, I'm not having Christmas ruined, and people the penny's beginning to drop. That it's really about.
She's not
control.
doing a QR code at the family Christmas. You know what I mean? To get into your mum's house.
You wasn't doing it there, but no, I mean, it doesn't do it anyway.
People are doing it. There's lots of parties now where people are. You have to
look, unfortunately,
get into a party. Kids parties.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
all the virtue signaling. I mean, it's that virtue. It's that virtue signaling time of year. It's that festive virtue signaling. It's that time when you can show everybody that you're just being a really good citizen.
But David, we just came back. Hang on, Richard, wait. In a second, all right? We just came back from the Western District, right? So we're down in the rural region. We drove down there
on the
Kangaroo Coast Road, and then we went on the inland road. And I'll tell you, mate, farmers are wearing masks. Farmers are QR coding to get into shops. So that's a bit of a surprise to see something I wouldn't necessarily expect. But it's happening all over the country. Yeah, Richard?
People have really, they've drunk the Kool-Aid, to borrow another kind of cult reference in relation to the People's Temple, Jim Jones. And I mean, is it Jim Jones? That's his name, isn't it? And I think, I hope, there's no actual kind of any more similarity to what went on at Jim Jones's People's Temple down in Guyana, because we all know everybody who drank the Kool-Aid ended up. So,
I think it's more a David Koresh situation, maybe, than David Koresh. The government's going to come and,
yeah. Maybe we're the David Koresh people who are resisting. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We've got more of a parallel, more of a similarity.
With your microphone, you're sort of gurgling. You're doing something different with your microphone. You're sort of gurgling a bit.
Okay, I'll swap this around.
Getting back to what you guys were talking right at the beginning, I mean, look, this country has a history. It's colonized, right? We go back to the settlers,
colonial, and proud,
and we go to really. I mean, there's no margin outside of jailers and convicts and jailers.
Yeah, sure.
You see, so something about this, to live in Australia.
It sinks into that mindset, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
the convict mindset.
To live in Australia also, as long as I'm safe, do what you will. There's an element of that as well. We're willing to put up with so much because here we are on this paradise, on this island, and we're safe, apparently. We're nestled, We're away from the rest of the world. We're self-governed, apparently. Apparently, whatever happens around the rest of the world, Australia. We're Australians, We're not rebels. Jailer, master, and convict.
The master-slave dialectic of Hegel.
Well, I have to say, I think this era, these last 2 years, have destroyed the larrikin myth. The larrikins are now attacked like crazy, like the enemies of the state. There's no larrikin. So let's put that myth to bed. It's bullshit. You're pretending. There's no larrikins in you at all.
The wild colonial boy is dead.
I'm just going to take a small process for Christmas break. We've only got T-shirts, pro-choice, cafe lockdown, anti-bullshit.
Great.
And they got stuff on the front as well. And
when are we getting a no-goat show? We want to have a no-goat show in the future.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Let's get a website. Someone made us a website. That'll be going live tomorrow. It looks pretty good. And
just a commercial, just some commercial advice here. Just some commercial advice here. Are you going to sell them with uncensored bullshit, or are you going to draw the, censor the yes and the H or whatever, or are you going to spell out bullshit?
No, uncensored.
I don't know what you'll get more sales with. I don't know what.
I don't think anyone has an issue wearing bullshit is going to wear any sort of form of the T-shirt. That's on the back anyway. You don't have to look. Good. On the front is a big vagina, but that's.
So if you wear a jacket, you won't see the bullshit. Yeah.
You'll just see the vagina.
Well, I think it's about time these T-shirts have appeared. I think that's fantastic, mate. Well done.
Now on the front we got Damien's face.
Have we?
One.
Yeah, that could be trouble.
Cafe lockdown.
That's the real trouble. That's the real
There's
trouble.
a link in the comments.
You're saying my face is a vagina? Is that what I'm to infer from?
Are you calling him a cunt?
Yeah. I'm not saying anything. I got arms coming out of my head. See,
the language warning should be on tonight's show.
Anyway, where were we? Sorry, guys. So we went and had Christmas carols in Warrnambool, and we interviewed a lot of people there. Those interviews will be going up tomorrow. There's a whole load of other interviews. Same again. Nurses, 20, 30 years on the job, out of work. I mean, everyone's just gone. It's the same carnage. And
a lot of nurses, wasn't there?
First time, no, we've actually had aggression aimed at us. There was a group there that were basically saying, we don't want this shit here. Yep. And the women were almost more aggressive than the men. It didn't happen to me. It happened to a lot of our camera guys. And in fact, so that was it. That was the first time in any town we've experienced that. It was
some aggression against you.
Yeah, and they actually stood in a mob glaring at us for ages, and they finally went home.
Wow.
It was really interesting. It was really, you could sort of feel it in the air.
It was a regular day in the life.
We should talk maybe about what's going on in Austria, and I'm not sure if it's in Germany, but like they're beginning to
Richard.
They're heading to a stage where they're saying that they're going to lock down unvaccinated people permanently, and so if you're basically locked down until you get the vaccine. I imagine you can get food delivered, and you're not allowed to work. So basically, only people who would be independently wealthy and are happy to spend the rest of their lives in their home. I mean, at least until they say this crisis is over or whatever. I mean, there's talk of that at the moment that's going on, and there's talk of this happening in Germany.
Are they going to charge people too?
They've been fined in Greece. Anyone over 60-year-old who doesn't have the vaccine gets a fine every month.
I know, and it's the same with France. I heard that's there. Macron, he was an ex-Rothschild banker, of course.
Austria too.
The EU is, obviously a globalist, like major globalist tent under which basically all of Europe. That's the main reason Britain got out of it, because the British royal family still exist, I believe, outside the globalist cabal, even though they constantly work with them. I do believe they represent an older cabal, in my opinion, but we can talk about that another night. But I think.
Sorry, Richard. Just before I go on, I want to say though that the people that came, even though we had that crowd, the people that came were wonderful, and so they had some really great interviews. The people that are actually there to support us. were really beautiful, and we're really glad you came. And then a farmer and his wife, they put us up in this incredible house with an incredible view of a water. It was amazing. So we had a wonderful night there and a wonderful drive back, thanks to Steve and Nick and all the others, and Bradley come in singing. So it was a really great time. It was just that it was the first time that the violence, but the people that came were terrific, especially Jenny.
So there was actually violence. They were violent. They didn't just yell at you, but they...
No, they got to the point of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When
is the next
words? Just words.
That's why we brought Scotty. He's our
security.
Right.
You sort of got this strut. That's
did they confuse you guys to MSN?
And you can see he's a bit simple because he's been beaten enough time, so he doesn't absorb pain. He doesn't feel
like
David, what were you saying?
Did they confuse you guys for the MSN?
Did they confuse us with the mainstream media?
Yes.
Oh, thank you for that.
I don't understand why
we got our first mainstream write-up. That's not bad. Just read out some. Pro-choice event held in Warrnambool. Former Neighbours star Damien Richardson, who played Gary Canning in the Australian drama series, attended a pro-choice event at Warrnambool's Lake Patrome on Sunday. The Carol event was held with Mr. Richardson and playwright, producer, and author, Michael Gray, acting as MCs, invited by the event's organizer, Jennifer Lee, Mr. Duke has told the Standard he attended, that's the only counsellor that's not vaccinated, because he felt people need more moral support. They're intelligent, dedicated people. It's all about being anti-vaccination. It's not about being anti-vaccination. It's being about being pro-choice. The right to choose yourself, whatever happens to yourself, what happens to you. He said the freedom of speech was a hot topic. What they're doing is being Australian, the right to choose to speak up and right to enjoy yourself and enjoy life. It was good evening, considering that the weather was nasty. His message to the community was for everyone to enjoy themselves. Don't go into panic mode and enjoy the Christmas because life is good. And so it goes on, but it's good. It's good.
Very nice. You guys could be mainstream. You could mainstream I don't
know what the image was. They usually use bad images of Damien, but I can't see the image.
You could mainstream this whole thing, boys. This could be it. I mean, it could take one friendly article. Next thing you know, you're going to be with the Age is going to do a good piece on you, and you'll be on the ABC on the spreading the word.
Generally, it turns just as quick. Generally, it flips on you. You don't know from one to the next, and be ready to be completely.
It's just a picture of the crowd in the rain.
You don't think I'll get Ida's job? You don't think?
Are you okay with that? He's sacked. He's already sacked. He sent out on the first job. Simon gone. Sacked on the way home by text. Anyway, Damien, you happy with that?
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, she was quite a nice. She was a nice. I got a good sleep. The country air was great, but she was quite a nice woman.
You seem to have a nice ally there. Yeah, you seem to have an ally there, which is good.
We spoke very honestly, David. We spoke very honestly and very frankly with her, and I think it was sort of undeniable the spirit of the event because she was at the event. So I mean, they can always put a spin on it, as we know. I wouldn't have been surprised if there was some hatchet coming, but they didn't. Clearly, there wasn't. So that's great.
It comes down to the person as well. So she must have some kind of she. It sounds like she's got a conscience and she's centered and she's well.
But at the same time, I don't know how much editorial control she'd have because she's brand new. She's just a kid from the city. That's basically one of her first jobs. So that's still pretty good to I
mean, the cabal's reach is only so large. Maybe it doesn't reach the papers in Warrnambool. You know what I mean? Maybe they didn't quite get there to pass on the official
Tomorrow
message.
Morning, Rupert Murdoch is going to go crazy.
Through the gaps.
A brick is going to go.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who owns the Warrnambool Standard because it's a daily periodical, so someone definitely owns it. It'll be owned by one of the big stables, I'm sure.
But still, I mean,
it's a reasonable sized community.
Sometimes in those regional papers, you can get some truth out, and you see it in sometimes even in a local paper, like a council paper, you might see a story that's like, oh, that actually sounds like it's on the money, But no, I mean, it's rare though, and look, you occasionally see it in mainstream media here if you're lucky, but you know, I mean, obviously someone must push to actually get the truth out there. And it's extraordinary that nobody has seriously, you know, come in to examine what's going on, to talk to you guys and to talk to other people in the freedom movement who are more serious and actually do, you know, try and listen. I mean, is that really that hard to do? Why is there no 60 Minutes report on all this where they come and talk to you guys?
It's coming from the top, and that's not what the that's not what's on the mission statement. It's not there's no coincidence here. There's no coincidence here. It's orchestrated.
There's so many people who know this is history. There's a lot of people documenting it already. There's some people that come with us at the marches. There's loads of people with serious equipment documenting it all. Topher's already made a documentary. So they know at some point, if we get through this, that
someone does need to make a film of
history.
A documentary
and the
film
mainstream media isn't. The mainstream media is
There's so much footage there. I can't see it not. As I said in one of my little humble videos, my little humble daily videos, blogs, there is so much like we can't. Well, not so humble, but modest. Well, modest in size.
When you preface it with humble, you know there's a chance it's not. That's all.
My mum says you're great. She's a great supporter.
Very true, Damien. Very true. But listen, as I was saying, we've had so many great people there, like Rakshan, like Anthony Burge. These guys have picked up so much footage, tirelessly out there and captured so much. And if it wasn't for them, there's been no, mainstream media. They've not had orders to get out there, and so nothing would have been documented. These guys have got fed, and what's actually put us on the map, and I said these guys should never underestimate themselves. They should give themselves a huge pat on the back, because if they're not already aware that the magnitude of what they've done, they were the only ones presenting the narrative of the fight back to the overseas market. These affiliated networks, there was no brother sister networks getting footage sent back over there. There was no there was absolutely nothing getting fed back to their brother sister networks in the US, over in Europe. It took independent media. It took these guys with their handycams, guerrilla style handycams, with their video getting out there guerrilla style, hands on, at all these marches and protests to actually get the narrative. And they've got so much footage there that it will become a documentary. I'd be amazed if it doesn't become a movie.
It's the same in Europe. I mean, the stuff that we're getting from Europe comes from the same sort of streamers and entities. But Dave, while we got you on, can you do your thing about vaccine passports? Because what's happening with the marches now is that we have an army, but we don't have a clear campaign. And we've got to have the campaign either to stop the vaccination of the young children, or to stop the mandates, or to get rid of vaccine passports. So today, you did a great spiel to me about vaccine passports and what's that thing bringing in they have in China? The social credit
system.
The floor is yours, brother.
Me or myself or Richard, because it looks like you're looking at Richard. There's a Brady Bunch thing going on here. Alice is looking at Peter. Greg's looking at
Richard's face, but I'm actually talking.
Oh, okay. Well,
where's Marsha?
Handsome man. Well, look, I keep my fight. For me, the head of the snake, the head of the dragon, if you will, is China. It all comes back, like you were saying today, Michael, that absolutely the globalists have their fingerprints all over this. People are, they're all hovering. What's Bill Gates doing? What's he been doing around pharmaceuticals and vaccines? What are you doing, you megalomaniac? There's something, we know. There's so much doesn't add up. Things stink here. We don't need people out there doing, over due diligence. They're making it clear what they're doing. They're not even hiding it anymore. They're all in this cabal. Like Richard said, it's a cabal. They're all under this giant banner. And they do it out in the open at these summits and so on and so forth. And like you said, Michael, like your feeling is it's coming right from there, but I think they're working hand in hand with the Chinese, because look, we're not questioning the release of this biopoison, this development of a biopoison which should be up there with nuclear proliferation and the concerns around that. We're 2021 and we're still developing goddamn no blasphemy, bioweapons. And here we are. One has escaped for whatever reason, but more concerned, just as concerning, was being developed. How are these things happening? And here we are. And we're all out there and we're looking at each other and saying, vaccine, no vaccine. And we're looking at the after effect and the aftershock and all attacking each other almost. And disparity, so much disparity. But it goes back to, why aren't we calling out China? Stop, rewind. We wouldn't be in this mess without all of that.
Yeah, look, I mean, if I comment allow me to comment on the topic of China. First of all, the Chinese Communist Party has been around since, 1949? I don't know the death toll of the Chinese Communist Party on its own citizens, but it's somewhere in the vicinity of 40 to 50 million people. So, that's, I don't know how many Holocausts is that, 6 million or whatever. That's at least 6 of them, 7 of them. And they're still around. Hang on. They're still around and they're still in power. And then for whatever reason, they've released this, whatever it is. I mean, there's always talk. Obviously, originally, the talk was that it came out of the wet market. Now, everybody really realizes, even some mainstream media in the US who've come on board with that statement, look, it came out of the lab most likely. But they always call it an accident. First of all, it wasn't an accident. It was deliberately released. Now, this is where it gets interesting, though, because what is called the globalists were working with Wuhan. They were funding it, Fauci and others, Gates and stuff. They were funding the gain of function research. And then, are they really trying to start World War III? Did they say to China, look, release this, it's going to be great for your economy? But has there been some betrayal? Because I know Soros was in favor with China, but China recently announced that Soros is one of the most evil people on the planet. Has China itself been betrayed? In the sense, because this is a very 1984 type situation where they want to start a war between the West and China, and you see that in AUKUS and other things, which will obviously be a disaster for both sides. So, I think we have to be very careful of what's going on, because the globalists love warfare and they love biowarfare, and whatever they did release is an extremely mild bioweapon, whatever it is, and it may well have gone away at this stage. And now we're just, creating hysteria over a new form of flu, or maybe a COVID that's mutated like Omicron to where it's just like a cold or something. So that's what I wanted to say on all that. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Sorry, you're talking to us?
Who?
Is he muted, Dave?
Gentlemen.
Did someone mute him?
Dave's talking, but he's muted.
Oh, okay. I had the common sense. I had the common decency and sense enough to mute myself during that. Richard, spot on. I mean, a mild version of this. The Chinese wanted to do just enough damage, in my opinion, my humble opinion. Once again, don't humble. I'm referencing humble, but I really am trying to.
Twice now. It's getting worse.
I don't want to make the biggest call, but honestly, they 100 million, as you said. Also, going back to the stats, China's looking at under Mao, 60 million, 100 million. We don't know the numbers, and the way the Chinese think, the Communist Party, I should say, Communist Chinese, and those, those under Mao, those who've been educated by Mao, look, they're happy to get rid of, in the example of a biological attack, right? They're happy to get rid of 100 million of their own people and say, oh, well, look, as a red herring, and say, well, why would we release a weapon? I'm even taking on the accent. Why would we release a weapon, and jeopardize and kill 100 million? Well, that's exactly what communism will do. For you to successfully strike us, you'd gladly do that. You would take out 100 million of your own to destabilize the rest of the world. They would not.
It's interesting to know. Let's talk about this. I mean, China's own death toll for COVID is something like 5,000, but the American death toll is something like 800,000. So you know what I mean? Like,
but are these death tolls meaningless? Are these death tolls?
Mission accomplished.
That's a question too. That's a very important question. What Damo said there. I mean, are we to believe these death tolls? But I don't know what the global death toll for COVID is now, but I believe it's past 6 million, which is past the Holocaust, right?
I had a terrible case, personally, a very bad case. I believe it. I believe this thing definitely kills. Once again, the numbers. But look, I really do believe, this is a crude, they call it a crude weapon, crude biological weapon.
Sorry, Damien. Everyone's asking where Pete, what's his face is.
Pete. Oh, yeah, he was meant to be on tonight's show. What happened
Pete
there
Evans.
with Pete? Pete Evans, where's he?
I'll let Damien explain.
Damien?
Well, we still want to be gentle because he may well still come on the show, so we
Be
don't
gentle.
want to say
Go easy.
anything too
Use the lube.
disparaging. But there was some difficulties in communication with Peter, which may have been from our end. It may have been from his end.
His end, eh?
Or someone's end.
Someone's end.
So we're still hopeful of getting Pete, but clearly, as advertised, he's not on the show tonight. Now, someone may or may not have jumped the gun on advertising him being on the show tonight.
I don't want to name any names, but
nonetheless, you were saying, Richard,
miscommunication between miscommunication.
You know, this globalist conspiracy you guys are talking about, right? Hang on, I just want to pose a question.
I just got to explain the missing Pete Evans.
This global conspiracy you're talking about is government, one government, let alone a collective of governments across the Western Hemisphere, or maybe including the East of China, etc., capable of pulling this off? Or is it more, a matter of, their ineptness? They're not capable of pulling it off. Micklehams not even built. Micklehams meant to have 500 people in it by now. It's still not ready to go. So is that more likely what's happening here?
I do feel that the wheels are falling off.
We drove past it a couple of weeks ago, and there's no fence out the front, so if you're stuck in there, you can catch the bus down the Hume home. That's what I'd be doing. I'd even get on without a ticket and see, chance it.
Yeah,
anyway,
and the other thing is that factory, they're building a vaccine factory for RNA vaccine. I mean, obviously for COVID, and it's not going to be ready until 2024. So that means they're basically going to be infected. They're going to be injecting people in 2020. You're still going to be getting this jab, and if you're on board this agenda. So I think this movement that we're all a part of is only going to get bigger. With each jab, people are leaving the plantation, mate.
Successful business.
Just 2 seconds, David. So in 2025, that comes online, and that could be the end of the year. So they're going to they've got to get rid of all the vaccinations they got between here and there. Yeah. And so that there has been talk of moving it to every 3 months. And they were talking about that. And Boris is talking about it. They're talking about it here. You can get it soon now, so they might move it to every 3 months. And when they said that, I thought, well, they used the word anti-vaxxers against us. And if you're intending to try and inoculate me every 3 months, then, I'm an anti-vaxxer because I don't want it. I don't want to be inoculated every 3 months again.
Every 3 months.
And so maybe one way to fight back, just to almost at the end of my sentence, it's just here. If we actually embrace the term where they call us anti-vaxxers, we go, we are. It actually detooths their attack.
Yeah.
They say David, 2025 too, but will it be 2025 just because that's projected? But who knows? Yeah. David?
I know this bioweapon to be serious. Now,
you're talking about vaccine passports.
Yeah,
I asked you about vaccine passports. You haven't even talked about that.
China. Well, look, we know what's been happening in it's nothing new in China. Vaccine passports are just an extension of the social credit system. That's all it is. You just incorporated this bioweapon into it now, and you're saying, okay, here we are. I mean, we're talking about a country that people actually have to scan to enter their own home. The government then says, who's over at your house? Chow Ming, you're not allowed to talk to Minghua. I mean, you're from different case, different.
Yeah.
I mean, so incorporate. These folks have got 10 years of experience of social crediting, social passporting, and 60 years, 100 years, thousands of years of totalitarian government.
Well, there's a long history of.
This is all new to us, and people. What's really frightening here is
David, before we move on, can someone please explain exactly what is a social credit score system? What is it?
I can explain it if you like.
Yeah,
basically, it's a thing, and it's only happened in the last 20 years in China. It's where basically, everyone's social media is being monitored. Like, the three of us would be completely stuffed. We would have the lowest social credit system on whatever zero, right?
Our organs would be somebody else's body right now.
Yeah, they would have already harvested our organs, the ones that are still any good, And You know, I mean, basically, yeah, it works that way. And like, if you do something wrong, like you jaywalk, or you drink too much, or you smoke too much, or you I don't know, get a lot of parking fines, or you drive too far, anything like that, it affects
anything anti-government messages would be.
Yes, it's also got to do with who you associate with. You can hang out, you can go to a dinner with people, and if there's a Chinese dissident at the dinner, your points go down. So it's a terrible thing. But the point is,
you start with 1,000. So they give you 1,000 points.
Yeah.
And every time you do something good, you can go up.
Yeah,
it takes a long time to go up, but it's very easy to go down. And if you go down to 800, it takes you like a year before you can get back there.
And there are restrictions. There are restrictions that come in.
And then you get restricted or benefits from where you are.
And that's where we've got to remember. That's what's happening here. I mean, that's the whole point of this COVID thing. I mean, because in China, when they brought this in, they didn't bring it in with under the cover of a virus, but they knew to implement this kind of totalitarian insanity on Western people that are used to freedom. Because it should be remembered that Chinese people before the Chinese Communist Party, they had rules by emperors going back a long, long time. That was incredibly barbaric. They would just torture people, rip people apart in the square. Now, I'm just saying they come from
the dynasties. You're talking about the dynasties, the Chinese dynasties.
Yes, exactly, Chinese dynasties, and there was a similar thing in Japan too with the shoguns and stuff. Back to the Edo era, which was very brutal. So I mean, some of these Asian cultures have come from this extreme brutality. Now, I mean, it's not as if we Western people are not. Used to brutality. I mean, there's a reason we run the world, probably because we're the most brutal people on the planet. Let's be honest.
We split the atom. We split
the British Empire, mate. I mean, people always carry on about the Nazis. The British Empire makes the Nazis look like school children. And
do you think though that when we started the show, we said people are walking in and showing their passport without it even being required, that there are people in the community that really like the idea of being teachers' pets and like the idea of going, look at my credit score. I'm better than that person. So some people might actually like a clearly defined social structure.
The intellectual Helen Dale has spoken about the convict jailer kind of dynamic, that many people are descended from that. But obviously we have a lot of new Australians who've immigrated here since World War II. And also my own family, they came here in the 1850s and 1860s on both sides. Wollstonecroft and Mackay, they weren't part of the convict thing. So it's not necessarily in everybody's social background, though there are many Australians that are still descended from the first fleets. And
South Australia too was a free colony. South Australia was
exactly. But I think it's got something more to do with the fact that in Western civilization we've had a sense of freedom, and that grew after World War II, after the kind of great troubles of the first part of the 20th century with World War I and World War II. The post-war boom and everything. But then, the cabals had to face the fact that if they want to destroy freedom, it's going to take a while. And obviously, with Chinese Communist Party, that was the one remaining major player that was a kind of descendant of, what's it called, Leninism, the communist, or the Bolsheviks. And I believe what we're witnessing now is Bolshevism 2.0, an attempt to a kind of combination of capitalism and the old Bolshevism coming together under Bolshevism 2.0, which has gone global. And that's what they want to inflict on everybody.
I was going to say hyper-Bolshevism, global. And getting back to China, Richard's all over China. He's all over it. And he knows what's going on. Mao's long march. These descendants now, it's not just the social classing, the passporting, but also categorize not just your behavior and your credit point system, where we would, to digress for a moment here, the four of us would be probably minus 25,000 points, and executed before we got into the country at the airport. We're talking about, as I said, just separating people and alienating people based on their class, on their caste. So proletariat types, bourgeois, the rest of it. So in China, to rise, you have to be diabolically exceptional for those that were on Mao's long march. And this is stuff I've only really learned in the last 1 year studying.
They have to be descendants of the original communists. Yes, it's more long
Mao's march, exactly. So they've really got this totalitarian set. They've got this society completely mapped out. You cannot. It is a classing system really meticulous, as I said, to break.
I did want to make a couple of points.
Yep.
On China. I mean, when we attack China, we should
talk about the CCP. I mean, the CCP is
exactly
China. The CCP
not Chinese people. No, Chinese people. Chinese people are suffering under the Chinese Communist Party most of all.
I'm saying under that Mao, all of these are descendants of Mao's Long March. They're the leaders. That's what it's dropped down to. They are the hierarchy. The rest of China is ostracized.
Well, hang on. The Chinese are enjoying a material wealth like they have probably never.
Certain Chinese.
So
certain
there's
Chinese.
some successes too.
True.
Well, far more than would have been previously. That's for sure.
What's happened in China? What we've witnessed is an interesting Hegelian dialectic, a synthesis of communism and capitalism. What we have is authoritarian capitalism, right? And this is a new political phenomenon. It's never really happened before, where a kind of Chinese communism is mixed, or any kind of communism is mixed with a successful form of capitalism. And then the actual capitalist, hang on.
It was fascism. Yeah, fascism could be it.
This is why some people call it fascism, because fascism wasn't kind of
like hyper-fascists. They're behaving more like hyper-fascists. It's a regime. It's a complete regime. It's like the Nazi Socialist Party. Those who were at the beginning, the brown shirts and Goring, all of those people, those families, that association. It's similar with Mao. It's dictatorial. China is dictatorial. And as I said, for people, Damien brings up the point of the country's prospering, enjoying wealth. For some, it's 1.4 billion. And those folks out there, on the western side of the
mirror up to ourselves for a sec. I mean, we're going at China, but let's hold the mirror up to ourselves at the moment.
We're no good.
At the moment in Queensland, you got no jab, no transplant. So basically, Queensland now, you talk about China being cruel. Queensland and South Australia now have a policy: comply or die. That's their policy in our country, free country. Now,
supposedly free.
China had one of the richest men in the world, and apparently he did something wrong. He vanished, got re-educated. Now he's back. He's much quieter. But we had someone on the WorkSafe, that where you can. What's where you go if you've got a problem with work? The Fair Work Commission. She came out on side of us, and then she vanished. And they actually used the term "she's being re-educated." They actually used that term. In the dialogue. That's happening here now. That's happening here. When we're going to the country, one farmer told me that one of his neighbours, this woman, was on a ride-on lawnmower mowing this huge load of grass, completely not near any other houses around, with a mask on, because she's complying to the system. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. Which is just part of it, like a totalitarian kindergarten.
No, you are seeing the kind of
you're embracing it.
The Chinese model, the contemporary Chinese model, you're seeing exported to the West. That's exactly what COVID is all about, right? And the fact that the virus came from China is again further proof of this. But again, I would
cameras everywhere.
I am very anti-China. I am very anti-China, but I'm not anti-Chinese people. Chinese people are wonderful. And also, it's very important to say this too, that I don't support the move towards a kind of World War III situation that will again suit the cabal, the elites who sell arms and stuff. So I'm actually a follower of a Russian philosopher by the name of Alexander Dugin, who's a student of Martin Heidegger and Nietzsche. And he believes in it. He presents a kind of another view of the world outside of globalism. He calls it the multipolar world. He says there are 3 or 4 major power groups in the world. They are Russia, China, America, and UK and Australia. We're like a Greek AUKUS. And then the old Europe. They represent 4 major, and maybe even there's a 5th with rising Africa. And he says that there needs to be a kind of balance between these groups, and that all these groups have a kind of sphere of influence. And his philosophy is actually all about peace. So people accuse him of being a extreme far rightist or whatever. But Alexander Dugin, his name, and he's fascinating. He's written books on the multipolar world, and he's certainly not an enemy of China. He's a regular visitor to China, and obviously he has a former background in he's an advisor to Putin. So You know, he's a fascinating figure.
And look at this guy. You haven't seen these guys, Richard, but these are at every protest, filming the protesters all the time, like this, constantly filming everything. Sometimes you'll have 3 all around us. So you've got all the facial recognition cameras and the filming every protester. That's why we joke about Miffleham the gathering evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of similarities between us and them. Sorry, Dave.
That's been imported. That's been imported from China. All imported. That's as Richard said, 20 years old. So same tactics. Our politicians in government, our Labor Party over here, and it's infiltrated Liberal and Labor, but we know that the Premier here in this state, whose name I just don't like to say, we know that he's we know his ties, we know his feelings and his relationships with those people, and he's a Manchurian candidate. I've been to Labor Party meetings and I see long rows of Chinese people. I was being groomed to be for council. I'm not Labor at all, but I'm told that's the easiest way in, and I wanted to have a look, see for myself. Long tables of Chinese people with their idea of the perfect white wasp Anglo candidate at the table, and translators all talking amongst themselves, and power brokers at that table with translators, people not even getting out of their seat to speak to one another, reach over and have little Chinese men translators go from one side of the table to the other and whisper, blah, 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 and they go back to their candidate, whether it's a waspy woman or a male, and that's it. Manchurian candidates everywhere, because
you don't get... The Labor Party is infected with, the Chinese Communist Party. Obviously, I mean, recently Daniel Andrews in the whole Belt and Road thing that Prime Minister Scott Morrison had to step in and stop it. I mean, I don't know.
And Richard, think about like Morrison, instead of sitting back and getting his kickback, as they all do, and selling things off to China, whatever, selling us out. Morrison, this was so, even by their standards, they had to rein him in. Even by their standards, it was a terrible deal. I mean, these are politicians that sell everything from under our feet, and he reined in Andrews. So look at the kind of subversion.
I'm in enough trouble. So this is David's opinion that they're all going to take. We actually don't have any evidence. It's just David, who's a very, let's say, energetic, passionate Italian.
Yes. No, this is can I mention a disclaimer? Yes, I am not a professional, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a politician, member of any political party.
You're not a doctor.
I am a white European
not a scientist.
Male, part of the patriarchy, and therefore part of the problem. End of disclaimer.
But David, you talk about the infiltration. You talk about the infiltration of the Labor Party with Communist China, but the reality is the Labor Party was infiltrated by communism long before.
A long time ago.
Yes, absolutely, exactly.
Gough Whitlam,
2.0, as Richard would say.
Bolshevism 2.0,
yeah, and it's Australian version, yeah.
But Marxism has always been globalist in its designs. It's always been globalist in its designs. It's closer to achieving it now than
I just think that the globalists have looked around, and the one remaining major force of totalitarianism was China, and that it had recently achieved a kind of synthesis with capitalism, totalitarian capitalism. And I think they basically said this is the model. And it should also be remembered, a lot of people have been talking about QR codes today and all this that's going on everywhere. And remember, this was brought in 10 years ago, approximately, QR codes. Originally, it was brought in as an innocuous thing that you would see on maybe a Coca-Cola ad, and you could flip on it, maybe you enter a competition, or maybe get free Coca-Cola. But, the whole point of QR codes is what's going on right now. I mean, they were brought in, and this is pre-knowledge of this event, and it's also the same with the health technology. The government in Australia spent billions of dollars to create an infrastructure for a health system for this event, which they knew was coming, okay?
I wonder how many people, though, are just pretending to do it. If you actually sat there and watched it, because I think everyone's getting...
Most people are pretending. I look at them. They're pretending.
So, guys, then we're talking about vaccine passports. How do we begin to stop the vaccine passport? Because we've seen thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of Australians on the streets of our capital cities and major centres every weekend. Now they're bringing the booster rollout forward. That's their response. We will get boosted earlier.
Yeah. And everybody who's double jabbed is now technically unvaccinated until you get your booster.
That's
they're welcome back. They're welcome back. You're all basically on the No-Go show now, ladies and gentlemen.
I saw a comment come up here. Very important.
David, you know what? If you take the third, and then you got 3 months until you can take the fourth, but if you hold off on the third and they bring in the fourth, literally you could take the third and still be a second-class
behind
citizen until you get up to the 3 months. So you can take the fourth.
You have to preempt and create. You have to preempt. You have to put yourself on the experiment list and get the fifth shot before anyone else. If you want 100% points in the social credit system. I saw a comment come up. I don't really comment on comments. Somebody wrote China, the big boogeyman. 1.4 billion people. Do you understand? Second largest economy in the world. It is not a boogeyman. It's real. It's there. I mean.
Well, sure, absolutely. But I mean, it should be remembered that it is under the rule of a party that with a long history. I mean, with a history of atrocity worse than the Nazis. And
I think another thing that's not factored into China's. Another thing that's not factored in with China's population is that it had the one-child policy for so long that led to basically men being chosen over girls. So there's so many of that 1.4 billion are young, aggressive, potentially men.
True. And that changed recently. They got rid of that.
Volatile.
That's why.
Yes, but it's too late now. That demographic already exists.
Absolutely. A lot of Vietnamese women are going there to get married, so they're marrying a lot of women.
Look, it's a huge power.
But that's going to be a problem for them, isn't it, going forward? How do you find partners for all those young?
Yeah.
And how do we deal with them? I mean, who wants to? You want to go to war with 1.4 billion?
Passports. We were talking about the passports. How do we get rid of the passports? Because Damien's right. How then you fall apart if we can stop the introduction of passports. Or they're already here.
I have a bad feeling about passports personally because I think now. I'm not a virus denier. I believe that it's very bad. For some people, it's fatal. Absolutely, we know it's real. Let's not deny here. We have a biological weapon that's killing off people.
Now, this is my scared face.
They can get so much leverage from this, which is what they're doing. I've suffered COVID. It's horrific. You don't want it. It's out there. But this is no subliminal message. Free choice. Do what you want. But once again, we're at Christmas. We're at Christmas now, and they've eased off these restrictions, these tight restrictions, and all of a sudden, the virus isn't so prevalent and vicious because the vaccinated and unvaccinated can now shop together. It's armistice. Weapons down over this commercial season. And what's going to happen with loosening these laws? There are going to be more cases, right? So being more cases, they're going to exaggerate it once again. And the social passporting
will return.
Heavier.
They've already started the exaggeration. They've already started.
Yeah, they have in New South Wales. So once again, how do we... And England's going crazy about Omicron, even though there's only one person in the entire world that's died of it, and no one knows who he is because they won't release the data on them. So back to how do we stop them? Do you think maybe they'll just crumble simply because Australians won't do it? Basically people will stop doing it. They won't care. They'll get a regular customer. They won't do it. And basically it's just not a workable system. So apart from a few... stores that have anal retentive staff, most of us are too friggin' lazy to do it. So
there's a good comment on screen right now we should all read. This is only happening in Western and European countries pretty much. Everyone else pulled out of the Depop agenda, I imagine he's saying. Well, we won't go into whether it's a Depop agenda, but it is very much, it should be read, this is aimed at European countries. Why is that? Western countries. Why is that? Well, because freedom exists here.
I'm glad you saw that, you brought that up. These countries generally that are avoiding all of this are very loud with very open with their stance and their displeasure with George Soros and Klaus.
Well, sure, a lot of them have, but like countries like in Africa, just are not really getting it. Hardly anyone is vaccinated, and there are no 800,000 deaths like in America. Look
at this comment here. This is what I'm talking about. Hazel Apperton. Many people I know here in the UK and Scotland are happy with vaccine passports. Just what you said, Michael. It's an accolade. They all say it makes them feel safe. I think it makes them feel superior because the comments heard when we were doing the Free Hug Army, someone overheard this woman pulling back her kids and going, "You don't want to go with them people. They're diseased."
Well, it's a dynamic of fascism. It's like
so this woman
fascism feels good,
absolutely celebrating the joy that she can finally be a snob.
Look, there's nothing better than saying that group is no good. Whatever it is, it's the unvaccinated at the moment. In Nazi Germany, it was the Jews.
You're allowed to bully them.
It felt good to get rid of that group.
Yeah, it's marginalising. But I think maybe
another question then, David, just before you go on, do you think that there is a healthy part of the population that actually enjoys being cruel?
Absolutely. Because I think
celebrates it, enjoys it, and is joyous that they can go to work.
Civilization is this thick, mate. Civilization is this thick. And, when we talk about things like freedom and liberty,
a thin veneer.
And freedom and liberty only exists in Western countries. If you go to most countries in the world, there is no freedom. There is no liberty. In most Asian countries, in most Arab countries, in most Africa, there is no freedom, okay? Exactly. The government runs things. And how do they operate? Like gangsters. They're gangsters. Now, whether they're left or right, it doesn't matter. They're just gangsters. And it's really the same in communism.
So that's why we've been taught to hate ourselves as white Western males for so long. That's why we've been taught.
To get rid of freedom.
Because we are the arbiters. Well, the arbiters of that freedom. We actually are.
We are the light upon the hill, mate. When we go out, when our light goes out, this planet turns into 1,000 years of darkness, a new dark age, okay? And that's why we're under attack, because we've maintained freedom on this planet, and that's why everybody wants to come here.
One at a time, otherwise you echo.
We're seeing the clouds. Richard's spot on. It will go. The light is going out, and we're starting to see the overcast. And if you can't look up and notice, or wherever you look, straight ahead, peripherally, you can't see what's going on. The democracy, love it or hate it, is going down the toilet. Absolutely. And
I think democracy has been weaponized against us. I don't think democracy is necessarily the answer anymore, because it's been weaponized.
Well said.
It's turned into libertarianism.
Really well articulated. Absolutely. And I look at it this way: like, if two things can happen here. There's a couple of theories I have, right? If and answering Michael, so what's going to happen next with social passporting? All right, we don't know. They're obviously putting the screws on and doubling down. And there is also that element that are happy going along with it. It is a badge of honor, and the rest of it, they feel safe. But look, if they don't get us with this social passporting, this vaccine, they have a plan B that's been ready to go. It's already been planted, seeded. And we know what this is: global warming, environmentalism. So they're going to put the clamps on however they can. They will get this across the board one way or another. Yeah.
If COVID fades, they will then bring in climate lockdowns. People have talked about how lockdowns, reduced our CO2 emissions, because everybody stayed at home. And and you did actually notice there was a slight improvement in the air quality in Melbourne when everybody was locked in their house. So they're going to bring in this kind of thing.
Yeah. I would have loved a lockdown for any other reason than COVID, even though, as I keep saying, it's horrible. It's a horrible thing. I'm a believer, I know it's a horrible thing, but given the $1 billion ice pandemic we have in this country, billions and billions of dollars of drugs being used annually. I digress for a moment, but I mean, if the government were serious about protecting people's lives and health, I mean, if that wasn't a talent, a giveaway right away, we're having a lockdown for
David, could I ask you something? David, could I ask, did you believe in COVID prior to contracting it?
Absolutely. I've seen people in cases, and I just thought, I had a feeling, because for some reason I have a great immune system, but I'm susceptible. I'm susceptible to flus. And it was I've had to have a jab every year. I started when I was a touring musician and the rest of it, because you come across so many people, and you guys are all in the industry, meet so many people. I'm one of the unfortunate ones that just always shake somebody's hand, and if somebody's got something, I'll catch it, and I'm out of action. Yeah. So I started with
there are two different opinions on that. I mean, David Thrussell, who's the regular on the No Go Show, he believes it doesn't exist at all. Now, I mean, I'm probably somewhere in between, in the sense that I believe something real came out of Wuhan, China, because I don't think they could have done this whole event. Now, it's actually live. I believe it was designed. Maybe it had a shelf life of 18 months. Maybe it's gone. Maybe this Omicron is now the seasonal flu. But the whole point is... Now, hang on. The whole point is there's an ambiguity. And what we have is we have mainstream media telling us one thing, and you have people within the what's called the free thought or the conspiracy community or the freedom movement. It's like, and where exactly is the truth? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Very hard. There's a kind of terrifying ambiguity.
So much
stop you there for a sec. Sorry, Damien and I have had a pretty full-on thing. That's why we're a bit quiet. Yep. So we're probably going to wrap it up and keep going.
Wrap it up.
But I just want to say, I know you said the light's going out, David, but from all the work I've been doing in the trenches, I see sort of an old light going out, but I see the possibility of a flashlight going up, almost like a flash fire that has the ability, once they keep pushing, to literally flare up like another bushfire season, but it's the fire is for freedom and burning it all away. It happened in Romania. Ceausescu fell in a couple of days. It's happened in other places too. And I can see the possibility of it happen here because the people that are holding the line are incredibly strong, incredibly determined. The most beautiful thing last night, I don't want to say who they were, but a young mum at the end came up to just say thanks for what Damien and I for being there. She had 2 little kids. One of them was born in the COVID era. And she said, and her husband was at the car. I went to the car. And he was really struggling. He's lost his work. He doesn't know what to do. You know, he's looking at the family. I don't want to take the shit. I don't want my kids to have it. But here he was holding on to what can you do? What's the future? What's this? And we gave him a hug, and we didn't have any answers. I didn't have any answers. But here was this lovely, strong, tough little country, regional Australian family, an outcast from the community like lepers. I think they came to get some sense of community, but they're holding the line, and maybe they'll give in. Maybe he'll give in to get work so he can support his family, which is a noble thing as well. But I see great courage. I see great.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that
I'm actually in love with these people. Yeah.
As we see the booster shots every 3 to 6 months, I believe more people will leave the plantation because I think there are a lot of people in society who are happy to go along with 1 or 2 jabs. There might even be some who would go to the 3rd. When they see the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, there's going to be this whole movement's going to grow, and this is how it will fall apart.
It'll move on.
Either they'll succeed or it will fall apart.
It'll move on to the environment at that point, and but you were saying, it'll move on to global warming, fear and threat, and indoctrinating us that way, and clamping on us that way. 2-minute showers. Just all this digital passporting, how much you're using, how much you're consuming, shaming others, badge of honor again, badge of honor. I took a 2-minute shower. I took a 1.5-minute shower. I didn't shower at all today. It's getting to all this virtue signaling, and we see it everywhere. But you were saying before, ambiguity, Richard, because of distrust, because of now it's the boy who cried wolf. Our governments, even if people were dropping off 1 out of every 2, you could not convince so many people that there were a virus out there because distrust is so high, distrust in the whole system. It's broken. As I was saying, if the government wanted to get everybody on the same page, if they succeeded, they've done a terrible job.
They have done a terrible job. But it's a complex situation we're in. But I totally agree with what Michael's saying. I think there is a new kind of light, and that it's in these times of darkness that something new can be born. And I believe that's what will come out of all this.
It's a test. Okay, David, a test. You get to wrap up. Damien, you got anything you want to say? You actually, Damien, I have to say, Damien, you look terrific. I don't know if you got a new light on you. You look refreshed. You look pretty shagged the other day at Warrnambool. Now, hats off to you.
At the party, at Gardy's party.
Samantha, it's the goat. It's Samantha.
It's the goat.
And I'm always
the girls he's single. David, sorry, somebody did ask if you're interested in older women, but I didn't see. It's back in the thing somewhere.
Back in the memory.
And,
scroll back up the show.
I have met the firefighters. I called them today. They didn't get back. Jason and John or someone. I asked them if they want to get back. They said they were going to come. They haven't got back. Pete, What's his name? Evans.
Let's get Pete on.
Pete Evans. Yeah, hopefully.
Pete Evans.
Come on, Pete. Come on, baby.
And so we'll keep you posted. It's a well-oiled machine. We got the town meetings tomorrow at 12. We got the council in Ballarat that's been persecuted for her going to a freedom rally on in the afternoon. And then on Thursday, we got 2 healthcare workers not vaccinated, went to hospital and have been treated badly. One of them outside a hospital was assaulted, had her nose broken. And so
remember,
they're coming on Thursday. So
remember, ladies and gentlemen, to support these guys above because they're doing a fantastic job. There's ways you can donate to Michael and Damo and stuff, and get up there and do it because they're doing an incredible job getting the word out.
We're going on before. We're talking before about how good the alternative media has been, but I don't think we can ever forget that Pizza Paul from Channel 7 has been there the whole time as well. He's been absolutely everything. He's been wearing pizzas, whatever happens.
A pizza magnet
to turn up. Yeah.
Pizza magnet.
Paul. Yeah, pizza
Paul. Yes, anyway, if you do want to donate, we went to Warrnambool. That was everyone that went was volunteer. So we went there for the thing. We didn't get any petrol money or anything. So if you do want to help us, because we do want to go to other country towns, we think it's important.
What's next? Where's next, boys?
Not sure. We're not sure. We'd like to go to Sydney, but don't know if we can get over the border. There's tons of comments here I didn't get to.
He's fine as
Gippsland. What about Gippsland? Gippsland.
Ty Palmer, do you want Ty Palmer?
Lakes Entrance.
We want a jet. We want a Learjet.
I want to go to Malakuta. The reason I want to go to Malakuta is that people have told me that there's still people living in tents there because the money from the government, wherever it came, never reached them. And the fires have all been forgotten in this. So I'd love to get to Malakuta and see.
Well, Lakes Entrance is about halfway to Malakuta, so we're on the way.
Yeah, and there's a group in Sale that want us.
You wouldn't want to drive all the way there.
The peninsula, down the peninsula.
If you're listening, I might be coming to Sale as an underground artist. So there's a group in Sale, so we could do Sale and then Lakes Entrance, and then Lawn. Who knows?
Right.
So we'll get up.
Right.
We're just yelling names out.
At the moment.
Ramana.
No, dude. I don't even know if it's in Victoria. Dimboola. What about Dimboola?
Mount Waverley.
Broken Hill. Anyway, thanks for coming, guys. I am going to go have a nanny nap, and thanks to this guy here. This one here, Steve. He's our camp dad. He's logistics guy. Feeds us. Drives the van all the way there and back. He is a Trojan, and he's getting much better at telling jokes. Much better.
Sometimes it's very sporadic. It's very sporadic.
But
there is some improvement. There's too much trying. That's the problem. It's good trying. It's very trying.
He's going to be filling Caesar's palace with his Croatian jokes.
I might say too, Michael, way there, that's a much better photo of Scott as well. That's a much better photo of Scott.
I thought that was a statue. I actually thought it was a
Scott
statue in the back.
No, that was the morning in the
Don't say that. The left to want to fight in the river, mate.
He's our security. He's our security. He does nothing. He does nothing. He's security. He does nothing. He complains all the time. You've got to stop so we can have a cigarette every bloody half an hour. Hopeless.
Woke him if you got him, boys.
How's his cardio? He keeps his level. Can he chase
perpetrators down? How's his cardio? If he thinks the trouble, can he chase him down?
No, he doesn't run. No, he can't run.
Doesn't run.
But he's got this look in his head and just this walk that it's. He's more a deterrent. You know what I mean? He's a deterrent.
Yeah.
Deterrent.
And that's the problem with biological warfare, isn't it? You can't have a deterrent.
Shot because we turned up at the wrong house in the middle of the night. And this pregnant woman answered the door. If it was America, we just would have got shotgunned. We were at the wrong farmhouse. So
she was so pleasant. She was really pleasant.
But big thanks again to Damien and Penny, who put us up.
Not me.
Incredible house, incredible hospitality, beautiful people, and Jenny and everyone from Warrnambool. So in the new year, we're really going to be doing other towns. So if you'd like us to come to your town, get in touch with us. Let's have a chat.
Let's do it.
I'm going to wrap it up. David. You have to, I'm going to say this once again. Young woman came on the show. I think her name was Jai or Ty or something like that. I keep forgetting it. Sorry to the young woman. But she's covered in tats and covered in piercings, and she's a hermit. But she said something that I think is essential for this revolution. We are morally obligated not to sell hopelessness, no matter how tight its grip. So end the show with some real hope. Go.
Absolutely. Ultimately, I say I like to instigate people, motivate them, fire them up, let them know just keep them on their toes, because we don't want to fall asleep, right? We don't want to lose focus here. It's there. This is all winnable. This is a change. The world, people say, oh, we're at the end. We are at the end of something. It's a cycle, absolutely. And it's up to us to make sure that the next cycle we get into is hopefully the greatest chapter in humanity. So this is why we have to be alert and attentive. And we can't, I don't come from the peace, love, and campfire song mentality when it comes to speaking about these things. I kind of reserve my positiveness and all those other things. Sorry, I'm trying to wrap it up. It's the my hands. See what happens when I get Italian? My hands just go hyper. You're doing this to me.
You need a wider shot. You need a wider shot for the
nice
shot.
Be hopeful, but don't have your head buried in the sand, because we can do this. We will do this, but let's not fall asleep at the wheel. All right.
Okay, last off, Damien. We need to do a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the Australian Free Independent Press Network. Nailed it.
Glad you said it. Yeah, well done.
Australian Free Independent Press Network. So to all of you out there, I'm going to wish you a Merry Christmas. If you're not happy with the day, if you find your relatives ostracized you, we're going to be live in the evening with Graham Hood. And we're going to start around 7 and do an open thing. And, so you're welcome to that. Damien, I'll let you do the new year.
Well, a good thing I found today, on a positive note, was the collective noun for goats is a trip. A trip.
Tripping out. Trip and bull.
Words are good. Yeah.
Trip.
Words are
and
good.
You're the goat herd. Or is Michael the goat herd? That's the shepherd. Bit of both. Well, it's great talking to you guys, and David Fussell will be back in the new year. Hello.
You have to do a New Year's thing. A New Year's for their show.
To whose show?
Boish.
Happy New Year, everyone, people. Thanks for tuning
Happy New Year.
And
Happy New Year, guys.
We're going to see them again before. It's too early to go in with a new year.
No, we're sending it to them. They want to do it now like a video.
Oh, sending it to who? I can't say that. What
Australian Free Independent Press Network.
Happy New Year to the Australian Independent Free Press Network.
Happy New Year to them.
Organisation, to their fans. We stream to them every night.
Our family. Happy.
They're the guys. They're the guys. They got the footage no one else was out there getting. They're the guys.
A trip of goats.
You out there who don't understand. Damien is wishing you a really happy and positive new year.
Yep,
I am.
He's excited.
I don't want to be a Pollyanna about it, though. I'm a bit like David. I don't want to be a Pollyanna about it, but I'm sure something good is coming. Yeah, there's things happening that we don't understand. Ultimately, we're dealing with this in a human concept, trying to understand what's going on.
Turn around. Really, U-turn. Go back. U-turn. Go back to the bullshit. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy up. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We're going to sing Auld Lang Syne together.
Well, that's why I say the new year is potentially happy because there's things at stake, things happening that we know not of, because as humans, we cannot begin to understand the scope of the whole thing.
We are very
I don't know the lyrics. How's it go again? May old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind. May